Hello, my friends. Good evening. This is Tassif back with a new live stream, back with a list of important issues to discuss. And as I've said before, probably a million times, that this channel focuses on social and political issues, both domestic and international. So, what we are going to be talking about today, you can say it's international. I think it's largely international. So, yeah, that's right. We're going to be talking about international issues. But as we know, given our understanding of the world that we live in, international issues affect domestic policies and politics. So, as we start this discussion today, I hope that you will all pay attention to what I'm saying. And if you want to verify the information that I present, if you want to fact check me, you can do so. Please go ahead. It is always my goal to provide accurate information. So, if you want to fact check, you can do that. And as we start this conversation, I want to make sure that I ask my friends to introduce themselves in the live chat. So yes, if you are tuning in, please make sure that if this is your first time, subscribe and then introduce yourself in the live chat, just as my friends have done. As you can see, Frank is here, Richard is here, Kay Cooper is here. It's always wonderful to see them, and hopefully more of our friends will be tuning in very soon. So please introduce yourself and be a part of the conversation in the live chat. The live chat is open. It is available for everyone. It's not, you don't have to be a subscriber to participate, but I would appreciate if you subscribe. So, my friends, Canada, I have to pause when I start talking about Canada. I mean, one might think, hey, Toss, if you just started this live stream and you're going to talk about Canada, why are you pausing? Don't you know what you're going to talk about? Fair question. The reason why I pause is because I have mixed feelings and I just don't know how to express those feelings. So, on one hand, Canada is a great friend of ours. Canada is our neighbor. We have great exchange with Canada. We do a lot of trade with Canada. So one might expect that Canada is going to be our best friend. Ideally, that would be the case, but in reality, we're seeing that there's a lot of tension between the United States and Canada right now. And it's not our fault. We are innocent here. You have to understand that. We, the United States of America, we are innocent. We're just asking for fairness. But Canada, and I won't say Canada, I'll say the politicians in Canada, they have been very, very unfair. The way they have treated us in the past and the way they are treating us now. So we expect Canada to be a great friend, a partner, a strong ally. But then when we see certain things that Canada did, certain things that Canada is doing right now, the politicians, it's really heartbreaking. And that's why I just have mixed feelings. But I can tell you one thing. Canada is in a tough spot right now. President Trump has said clearly in bold letters, he wrote on Truth Social, Canada cheated and got caught. My friends, I am referring to the TV ad, which I talked about yesterday. So if you missed that conversation, you can go and watch the replay. and see what I talked about, hear what I talked about. So Canada came up with, and it's not Canada, whole of Canada, it's Ontario. Ontario government. Ontario is a province of Canada. Ontario government came up with a very misleading, a very dishonest ad. They took selective audio and video from our great former President Ronald Reagan's speech, and they turned it into an ad without permission. The Ronald Reagan Institute, the Ronald Reagan Foundation had a statement which I discussed yesterday. They are not happy about it. So Ontario government with Doug Ford in charge, he's the Ontario Premier. That's what they call him, the Premier. Ontario Premier Doug Ford. They published this misleading ad. They released this misleading ad. And President Trump said, that's it. We're going to take action. And he took action. President Trump said, we're ending all trade negotiations immediately. And so Canada is now in a tough spot. Canada, President Trump had offered Canada to become the 51st American state. That's a great offer. Who doesn't want to be a part of the United States of America? So President Trump said Canada could become America's 51st state. And Canada rejected that idea, at least the government did. Among people, there's a lot of support, to be honest with you. If you ask, a lot of Canadians are going to say, yes, we want to be a part of America. We want to be the 51st state. But the people in positions of power, they're saying no. So Canada is not the 51st state of America as of now. But you know what Canada is? Canada is in a fusion. That's right. What is Canada going to do now? I had told you last night when I did my live stream, I told you very clearly. At the time, I told you, hey, the next 12 hours will be very important, will be very crucial. Because we were waiting at the time for some kind of a reaction, some kind of a response from Prime Minister Mark Carney of Canada. After President Trump made the announcement that we are terminating all our trade negotiations immediately, of course, the Prime Minister of Canada had to respond. But last night when I was doing the live stream, there was no response. So I said, let's wait. It's going to be an important night. It's going to be an important morning the next day. We're going to have to wait and see what kind of a response Prime Minister Mark Carney comes up with. And earlier today, I saw brief comments, very brief comments that Prime Minister of Canada, Mark Carney, made earlier today. And you know what? I'm going to get to what he said, but you also have to understand the things that were not said. When you look at a person, when you're face to face with a person, when you're looking at a person's face, you're trying to read that person's facial expression, and you're trying to look beyond the face and try to read a person's mind. It's not just the words that you hear. It's not just the words that the person says. You have to read that person's face. And I saw, from my observation, some of you may disagree with me, and that's fine. I can tell you that on Prime Minister Mark Carney's face, I saw signs of exhaustion. He was feeling extremely tired, from my observation. He was not feeling happy. He lacked energy. He looked exhausted. He looked confused. And to be honest with you, he seemed a little helpless. And that makes sense. He seemed a little helpless. Now let's go back and try to understand the reason for Mark Carney feeling helpless. Prime Minister Mark Carney made a trip to the White House earlier this month to speak with President Trump, to meet with President Trump, to speak with him, to talk about trade, to talk about other issues. He was in the White House in October, Mark Carney. And I had said that things seemed to be heading in the right direction. I said, and I felt that. I felt quite confident. I felt deep in my heart that, hey, things are going well. Maybe Canada and the United States will come to a nice agreement. Maybe we'll have a nice trade deal. I felt that the negotiations were heading in the right direction. I felt that the right people were doing the talking. The American team, the Canadian team. I think it seemed to me that, okay, now they're sort of on the same page. Maybe a few more days, maybe a few more weeks of negotiations, and things are going to be in perfect order. There's going to be a signed trade deal. That's what I felt. And as an American, that was my observation. And then, as things were heading in the right direction, the Ontario government, I mean, this is a provincial government. This is not the national government of Canada. This is the government of one province, Ontario. You guys know where Ontario is, right? You got to look it up on a map. One province, and there are other provinces. This one province does something very offensive. The Ontario government releases this ad, which is highly, highly misleading. And as a result, President Trump, rightfully as he should, he says, no more trade negotiations with Canada. We're done. We're terminating negotiations immediately. That's the right step that President Trump took. And I'm very, very confident that he did not take that step very lightly. I mean, I'm sure that he thought about it very carefully before he made that announcement. Because the Ontario province government did not leave us with any other choice. When some government entity does a $75 million ad buy, they spend $75 million on this ad targeting Republican districts in the United States. And this guy, Doug Ford, I'm not going to say much about him, okay? Because I don't want to say much about him. I don't have good things to say about this man, Doug Ford. So I'm going to not say a whole lot. But Doug Ford, the premier of Ontario, Canada, this province, decides that in the middle of U.S.-Canada negotiations, when things are heading in the right direction, when good things could be expected, this guy decides to spend $75 million on an ad to use Ronald Reagan's audio and video selectively to come up with this misleading ad regarding tariffs. So at that point, just ask yourself, at that point, what option does President Trump have? What could President Trump do at that point? When you're trying to negotiate with another country in good faith, and that country's leader is coming to the White House, and you're having great conversation. And remember, not too long ago, President Trump and Prime Minister Mark Carney, they were on the same stage in Egypt, North Africa, when President Trump was proudly announcing the peace deal for the Middle East. Prime Minister Mark Carney was right there. And on camera, we saw Prime Minister Mark Carney and President Trump having a very friendly exchange. They were shaking hands. They were happy. And that's what we want to see. We want to see US Canada having a great relationship because they are our neighbors, and everyone's better off when neighbors have good relationships. So this guy Doug Ford, I don't know how he came up with this idea or who gave him the idea, who's the mastermind behind this idea that the Ontario government's gonna release an ad targeting Republican districts spending $75 million in the middle of a negotiation that seemed to be productive and fruitful. And this ad basically destroyed the whole process. And it left President Trump with no choice. He had no other choice but to say, you know what, that's it. We're terminating the trade negotiations. Michael Brown's here. Michael Brown, good to see you. Is Tangerine here? Tangerine, are you here? Howard is here. Hello, Howard. It's great to see our old friends coming back. Tangerine's here. Hi, Tangerine. And there are other friends. So thank you all for being here. Please, those who did not subscribe yet, please subscribe. I would appreciate it. So now that puts Prime Minister Carney in a very, very difficult spot. He is facing a very challenging situation because of what Ontario province government did. Mark Carney is the Prime Minister of all of Canada, and Doug Ford is the leader in just one province. And because of what Ontario did, the whole of US-Canada trade negotiation has come to an end abruptly. So Mark Carney, as a result, he looked pretty helpless to me. And maybe you have come to a different conclusion. Maybe you're going to say, no, he didn't look helpless. He looked fine. He looked happy. I don't think so. I don't think so. He looked very helpless. And I think, now I can't read a person's mind, all right? Did you know that? Yeah, let me tell you a secret, okay? I'm going to tell you a secret. Get ready for this. I cannot read people's minds. So in case you thought I can read people's minds, I can't, all right? So I can't read what's going through Mark Carney's mind. But from his facial expression, he looked very helpless. And I think, having said that I cannot read his mind, I do think that deep inside he's blaming Doug Ford. I think Prime Minister Mark Carney is thinking, why in the world did Doug Ford do that? International negotiations are not easy. I mean, do you think it's just Mark Carney and Donald Trump, they talk to each other and they settle everything, they come up with the details of a trade agreement? That's not what happens. You've got the foreign minister from Canada, you've got the Secretary of State from the United States, you have other people, the US Trade Representative, you have other folks involved. You've got Scott Bessent. You've got Howard Lutnick. It's a whole team approach. The United States has a team. Canada has a team. All these people will have to sit down and have numerous exchanges. It doesn't happen overnight. It doesn't happen in a day, in a week. When we're talking about US-Canada relationship and trade, it's a massive volume. There are so many components. Canada is one of our biggest trading partners, like in the top 3, I think. So it's not an easy negotiation. And whatever negotiations are done, that's going to have impact on both countries for years and decades to come. So it's not easy. It's not just President Trump and Mark Carney sitting down with pen and paper and sorting things out. No. There's a lot that happens behind the scenes that you don't see. So when all of this is going on and things seemed to be heading in the right direction, Doug Ford comes up with this ad and just destroys this entire process. And this is so sad. And that's why I say Canada's crisis, it's very, very bad for Canada. Because you have to understand, when we're talking US-Canada trade relationship, US has the upper hand. US is a much bigger economy. US is a much stronger economy, more powerful, with more influence, with a much bigger market, with much bigger capabilities. Whether you talk about economics, whether you talk about military, whether you talk about just global influence in general, the USA is far more powerful than any other country in the world. So if these trade negotiations don't continue, it's going to be Canada's loss. Canada is going to be losing. We are all better off. Both Canada and the United States will be better off if we can do a nice trade negotiation, if we can come to a deal, we can sign the deal and just continue ensuring fair trade. But if the negotiations end like they did, Canada is in crisis. And that is what I saw on Mark Carney's face when he spoke in front of the reporters very briefly. And I didn't see him answer any questions from reporters. He gave a quick statement and he just left. And it makes sense. He doesn't have a lot of answers to the questions that people may ask him. If somebody asks Mark Carney, Prime Minister Carney, why did Doug Ford do it? Or did you talk to Doug Ford? What do you think about Doug Ford and Ontario coming up with this ad? What's your reaction? It's very difficult for Prime Minister Carney to answer these questions. Okay? And honestly, I'm not saying it's his fault. I'm not saying it's Prime Minister Mark Carney's fault. And I don't think President Trump has said that it's Mark Carney's fault. No one's saying, hey, Mark Carney, it's your fault. Why did Ontario do this? I haven't heard anyone say that. And I'm not saying that. And I didn't hear President Trump say that. It's the Ontario government that did it, led by Premier Doug Ford. But Prime Minister Mark Carney is in a very helpless position as a result of that. So, my friends, I think deep in his mind, he's blaming Doug Ford. I'm not sure if he had conversation with Doug. I think he did. Of course, he did. I'm assuming that. I mean, it's very offensive to make a misleading ad using our great former President Ronald Reagan's audio and video clips. And Mark Carney and his team are in an extremely embarrassing and difficult situation right now. And here's what I think is going to happen going forward. So I'm going to share with you my understanding of what might happen going forward. So I'm not predicting anything. I'm just telling you what I think would be the likely course of action going forward. I could be wrong. If I am, that's fine. But I have this channel, I do my political commentary to share with you what I think, and that's exactly what I'm doing. William Miller, good to see you. We got some more of our friends, I think, tuning in. Uh, we got some more friends tuning in. Thank you so very much. Appreciate you all. Okay. Um, so let's continue. President Trump is going to be visiting Asia soon. Okay, he's scheduled to depart from the United States today. Actually, I think it's already time. Let me just check something real quick. Yeah, I think President Trump. I think President Trump is speaking with the press on Air Force One. Okay, I'm not going to be able to listen to it right now because I'm obviously doing this live stream. But I'll listen to it later on, and I'll share my thoughts on that. But President Trump is departing because he's going to be flying to Asia, which is a long flight, okay? And so he's leaving tonight, leaving the US tonight, and he's going to Asia. He's going to be visiting 3 countries, and it's going to be a major trip, and I'll tell you why. Particularly with regard to trade talks. And I think, before I get into the discussion of what else is going to be happening during this trip, let's come back to the US-Canada issue. I think that during this visit, President Trump is going to be seeing the Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney. I think they're going to be meeting face-to-face, obviously, because Mark Carney is also going to Asia. And President Trump and Prime Minister Carney will both be at these events in Asia, particularly 2 summits, the ASEAN Summit and the APEC Summit. And so I am sure that Mark Carney I think it's very likely that he's going to express some form of apology to President Trump for the actions of the Ontario government. Now, you might ask, if it's the Ontario province government that did this, why is Mark Carney going to apologize? I think, as the Prime Minister, he has to take responsibility for things that Canada does. So internally, Mark Carney might have a very tense conversation with Doug Ford. I don't know what that'll be or what that was if they spoke, but it seems very logical to me that Mark Carney is going to blame Doug Ford, like, Doug, why did you do it? And then when Mark Carney comes face to face with President Trump in Asia, I think it's very likely that there's going to be some form of apology. Okay, I don't know what the words will be, what the method will be, or when, but it's quite likely that Mark Carney is going to say, Mr. President, we regret what happened, we apologize, we're sorry, please, can we continue the trade talks? I think there's going to be something like that. Okay. And let me know if you don't agree with me, if you think that's not going to happen. You can let me know. So, my friends, Mark Carney said this in front of the press. For those who did not see his his brief remarks from earlier today, Mark Carney said very clearly in front of the press, in front of the media, that he's ready to resume talks, meaning trade talks, when the Americans are ready. So Mark Carney, like, as of this moment, as of earlier today, anytime he's ready, he expressed very clearly that he's ready to continue the conversation regarding trade and tariff when the Americans are ready, meaning when President Trump and his team are ready. So now it's up to President Trump to decide if he wants to resume talks. And I think President Trump and I really don't want to make a prediction here. I don't, trust me. But I think because I have this channel, because people expect to hear my thoughts, I feel a sort of responsibility that I have to share what I think is going to happen, whether it's right or wrong, because otherwise, what's the point of having these live streams if I don't tell you clearly what I think is going to be the course of action? So here's what I think is going to happen. President Trump will likely consider restarting the conversation, but only if there is proper apology from the Canadian side. And Mark Carney's apology, if that happens, may not be enough. Okay? Because after all, it's not Mark Carney who released that ad. It's the Ontario government. So I think some form of apology has to come from Doug Ford. Now, is that going to happen? I don't know. Okay? To be honest with you, between Prime Minister Mark Carney and Doug Ford, I mean, I don't want to judge people, because you really can't judge people. If you draw some conclusions, you may end up being wrong. But it seems to me that between these two people, and they are both politicians, obviously, both office holders. Mark Carney is obviously at a much elevated position, being the Prime Minister, than Doug Ford, who is the Ontario Premier. I think between the two of them, Mark Carney seems to be the more reasonable person. Okay? Now, I'm not a fan of Mark Carney, and I've talked about him previously. In fact, when PM Carney, Prime Minister Carney, when he first became the Prime Minister, he gave a speech, which I discussed on one of the live streams, and I didn't like that speech. It seemed very like anti-Trump, anti-America kind of speech. It was almost like he's getting ready for a fight, okay, with the US. So I was not a fan, but I have seen that over the course of these months, Mark Carney has become more practical. Mark Carney has become more like, okay, we understand the United States of America is far more powerful. So, it's important to recognize the U.S. position and to move forward in a humble fashion to talk about trade. And I think that is what Mark Carney has done. Okay, he understands that Canada needs to have this trade conversation more than the U.S. needs it. Okay, because Canada's economy is not exactly in good shape. And if they cannot do decent trade with the US, then they're going to be losing a lot. Canadian businesses may shut down. Canadian workers may lose jobs. So Canada needs this very desperately. And so I appreciate Mark Carney's efforts to come to the US, talk with President Trump, and to come back again, as he did earlier this month, to have those conversations. I appreciate Prime Minister Mark Carney being in Egypt for that peace deal signing ceremony. So, given all that, I think between the two of them, between Doug Ford and Mark Carney is the more reasonable one. And Doug Ford, I really don't know what to say about him. I just don't know. But I can tell you, by doing what he did, by publishing that ad, he has really hurt Canada. Okay? It was not in Canada's best interest for Ontario government to release that ad, a misleading ad, a dishonest ad. So, my friends, I think President Trump will likely, once again, I'm very hesitant to say this because I don't know what President Trump has in mind. but I know he's a very reasonable person. He's a very kind individual. So I think he is likely to consider further talks, but only if there's a proper apology from the Canadian side. And I think that during this trip to Asia, both the leaders, President Trump and Mark Carney, I believe that they are going to have some kind of an exclusive one-on-one conversation. I think it has to happen at some point. And that might include not just the two leaders, but their teams. So President Trump with his team, Prime Minister Mark Carney with his team, and I think a proper apology from the Canadian side is overdue at this point. What Doug Ford and his team did, what the Ontario government did, is very offensive and it cannot be overlooked. There's no way. And I think we have to wait for President Trump and Prime Minister Carney to meet each other in Asia, and then we will get some updates after that. And so I think there's going to be a lot to discuss later on. Now, here's something that must be mentioned. This is an interesting update, which is very important that I share this with you. That ad that we are referring to, the ad that is the source of the problem, that TV ad, that misleading ad, will be paused. That's right. Will be paused. By the way, we got our friend Marjorie Bedford here. Marjorie, good to see you. I'm sure there are other friends of ours who are tuning in. Marjorie, wonderful to see you, Marjorie. Okay, excellent. Thank you all for being here. So that ad will be paused. And Doug Ford, the Ontario Premier, he said this on social media. He said that in speaking with Prime Minister Carney, Ontario will pause its U.S. advertising campaign effective Monday so that trade talks can resume. Wow. That means Doug Ford and Mark Carney did have a conversation, because Doug Ford is clearly writing, in speaking with Prime Minister Carney, Ontario will pause its U.S. advertising campaign effective Monday so that trade talks can resume. What does that mean? That means Mark Carney, in some way, shape, or form, said to Doug Ford, Doug, you gotta stop this. I don't know what exact words Mark Carney might have used. We don't know what that conversation was like. Whether Mark Carney was very calm, whether Mark Carney was very firm, whether Mark Carney was very angry, whether it was a short conversation, a long conversation, was it a smooth conversation, or was it just a very angry conversation from both sides? We don't know. But we do know that Doug Ford and Mark Carney spoke. And as a result of that, Ontario will pause its U.S. advertising campaign effective Monday so that trade talks can resume. I bet Mark Carney said, Doug, you got to stop this. Doug, why did you do this? Doug, this is such a bad idea. You've done a lot of damage. Stop it now. So, my friends, trade talks may resume. I don't know. I think the trade negotiations will resume only if President Trump wants the trade negotiations to resume. And right now, as of now, trade talks have been terminated. That's the current status. So now I'm going to be talking about President Trump's trip to Asia, the second part of this live stream. Very important. So stay here with me, my friends. And Rosie is saying Trump loves Americans. Absolutely, Rosie. That is a very, very true statement, Rosie. Very true statement, Rosie. Thanks for being here. Rosie, I don't know if you've tuned in before. I think that's, is it your first time here? Or you've been here before? I don't know. You can let us know, Rosie. I would like to pause a little bit and just ask our friends to please subscribe if you have not done so yet. Just hit the subscribe button because that's how you stay in touch with this channel. Sasha is saying you're not an American. Yes, Sasha, I am an American. You're very mistaken, Sasha. I am an American. I'm an American citizen, okay? That makes me an American. If you are an American citizen, that means you are an American. And that's what I am. Okay, Rosie is saying been here for weeks. Thank you, Rosie. I appreciate that. Thank you. Thanks so much. Thank you, Rosie. JH is saying MAGA, MAGA, MAGA. Thank you, JH. Appreciate that very much. MAGA, make America great again, just as my hat says, make America great again. Okay, now about this visit to Asia. Who's ready for this conversation? Are you ready? Just say ready in the live chat. Are you ready? We're going to be talking about President Trump's visit to Asia. It's a major visit. Richard Miller says ready. Marjorie says ready. Others are saying ready. Frank says TTTT, which means Tosif tells the truth. JH says we are ready. Others are saying ready. Excellent. Thank you, my friends. So, President Trump is going to be in Malaysia. And then he's going to be in Japan. And he's going to be in South Korea. Just mentioning these three countries tells you how significant this trip is going to be. President Trump going to Malaysia, going to Japan, going to South Korea. There's a major event in Malaysia that's going to be happening. Who knows what it is? Who knows what that meeting is going to be, that major event? Can anyone tell me? Name the meeting. Just the acronym. That's fine. Yeah, let's see if anyone can name that. Can you? All right. The comment section is moving so fast. I can't even read all the comments. All right. Okay. I'm going to continue. So, the ASEAN Summit. ASEAN is the Association of Southeast Asian Nations. The Association of Southeast Asian Nations. Okay, so ASEAN. And President Trump's visit during the ASEAN Summit is going to be a major highlight. Obviously, he's the most powerful leader in the world. And he's going to be visiting Kuala Lumpur for the ASEAN Summit, according to reports. But after the ASEAN Summit, there's one more major event that's going to be taking place in South Korea. That's the APEC Summit in South Korea. Now, for those who don't know what APEC is, it's the Asia Pacific Economic Cooperation Summit, APEC Summit. This is going to be a major world event, and we have seen the meeting of NATO members. We've seen that. We've seen the great group of world leaders in Egypt gathering when President Trump signed the Middle East peace deal. And we have also seen foreign leaders coming to the United States to meet with President Trump. And we have seen President Trump speaking at the United Nations event that happened not too long ago. So President Trump has already participated in some major world events. And now APEC, the Asia Pacific Economic Cooperation, APEC Summit, the Asia Pacific Economic Cooperation Summit, is going to bring together a very interesting group of countries. And I thought it would be interesting to read some of the names. Okay? It would be interesting to read some of the names of the countries that are part of APEC, just so it gives you an understanding of how diverse this group is. Okay, so you got in APEC, you got Australia, and I know we got friends from Australia who are tuned in for this live stream. So there's Australia, there's Brunei, there's Canada, there's Chile, and there's the People's Republic of China, there's Hong Kong, China, there's Indonesia, there's Japan, the Republic of Korea, Malaysia, Mexico, New Zealand, and the list goes on. There's Peru and Singapore, Thailand, United States, Vietnam, and there's a few more. I'm not mentioning all the names here. So President Trump is going to be in Malaysia for the ASEAN event, which is going to be a very long flight, and the trip, the Asian trip, will also include visits to Japan and South Korea. So now, the reason why the South Korea visit is important, extremely important, I must add, is because during that trip, President Trump is scheduled to meet with Xi Jinping of China, and that's going to be on Thursday. Okay. That's going to be on Thursday. It's going to be an extremely busy weekend as President Trump is traveling. It's a long flight. It's going to be an extremely busy weekend. I mean, the weekend has started already. I mean, it's Friday night, late Friday evening. And it's going to be an extremely busy week for the president when you look at the diplomatic side of things, the diplomatic efforts and negotiations. And so, I got to tell you one thing. This is a time to be really proud. Okay? If you are an American, you got to be proud, my friends. I am proud. I am an American. I am proud. And the world knows that America is back. The world now knows that we are truly the most powerful, and we're back. And we got a very, very strong leader. We have very strong leaders. We have a strong leader in the White House. We have very strong leaders in the Senate. We have very strong leaders in the House of Representatives, with the Republicans being in charge in both chambers, the Senate and the House. And so good things are happening. The world is not a perfect place, but you have to look at things, you have to look at trends and trajectories. And the trends are in our favor. We, the American people, we are winning, winning, winning. And America is back, and the world knows it. So when President Trump visits Malaysia, when he goes to Japan, when he goes to South Korea, he is going to project strength. Something that we could not have expected from Joe Biden. We could not have expected strength from Joe Biden. We did not expect strength from Joe Biden. And Joe Biden did not project strength. He projected weakness. But President Trump is letting the world know that America is back, and we are stronger than ever before. And we have not stopped becoming stronger. We're going to be gaining more strength as time goes by. And remember, this is President Trump's first year in office. He was sworn in back in January. So how many months has it been? February, March, April, May, June, July, August, September, October. 9 months. Just over 9 months. And he has already accomplished so much. Who else could have done it? Who else could have done it? And imagine what life would be like if Kamala Harris would have been in the White House right now. Our economy would have been destroyed completely if Kamala Harris would have been in the White House right now. Our economy would be completely devastated. But now, our economy is becoming stronger. But still, you can see the Democrats, they are using every option that's available for them to hurt our economy. That's what the Democrats are doing, and they're doing it on purpose. When President Trump is winning, the Democrats are trying to cause significant damage to our economy just because they don't like Trump, just because they don't like the Trump administration, just because they don't want to see President Trump achieving success. The Democrats are using whatever tools they have to promote chaos in society, to inflict pain and suffering by hurting the economy. What are the Democrats doing? As President Trump meets with the world leaders, as President Trump goes to Middle East and North Africa to sign a peace deal, as President Trump is traveling to Asia to meet with other leaders and to talk about forming stronger alliance, what are the Democrats doing? They are keeping the government shut down. It is extremely sad. It is extremely sad. Good to see our friend Charisse. Charisse, are you here? Did I see your name pop up here? Charisse. I try to acknowledge our friends. Is Charisse here? Charisse is here. Good to see you, Charisse. Thanks for being here. Rosie is saying Trump for Americans first. Absolutely, Rosie. That is correct. Okay, who here has not subscribed? If you have not subscribed, please do so. Please do so right away. Do it right away. Subscribe and stay connected. So, you know, I wasn't planning on talking about the shutdown. But the reason I'm still talking about the shutdown is because it's the current reality. The government is shut down. And every single day that I do a live stream, I have to let people know that the daily loss that we are facing is up to $15 billion a day. And those who watch my live streams every day, you're saying, Tassif, we heard that before. Yes, you have, but there are new viewers who are watching. There are new viewers who are here. They are here for the first time. They haven't heard my talk before, and they need to know this is the reality, this is the truth, this is what we as Americans are losing every day. $15 billion, $15 billion every single day. We're losing. Why? Because of the radical left Democrat government shutdown. I mean, just see the whole picture. On one hand, you have the Republicans serving this country. You have the Republicans fighting for what is right. You have the Republicans fighting for freedom. You have the Republicans trying their best to help the economy, to help small businesses, to help the workers, to help the future generations. You've got the Republicans trying to create greater opportunities in the economy. You've got the Republicans trying to take care of those in need. You've got the Republicans fighting for the people, fighting for the truth. You've got a Republican president promoting world peace, ending conflicts. President Trump putting America first, but really, he's helping the whole world. Yes, he puts America first. But because he's a kind human being, because he's got a very compassionate heart. He's spreading peace across the world by ending conflicts. He's bringing people together in solidarity for peace. While that is going on, the Democrats, they're purely focusing on politics. They're purely focusing on their left-wing political agenda. They're purely focusing on causing disruption and spreading chaos. And this is extremely sad. It's good versus evil. The federal workers, they are human beings. If the shutdown continues, people don't get paid. The military service members are not going to get paid if the shutdown continues. Many federal workers will not get paid. Many federal workers furloughed. All because of the radical left Democrat shutdown. Think about the air traffic controllers. Think about the TSA workers. How much are they going to suffer? These are not wealthy people. These are not people with a lot of money in the bank, that a lot of savings that they can draw from. These are hardworking Americans. They're not looking for luxury. They're just looking for a decent life. They want to work hard. They want to earn their paycheck. They want to put food on the table for their families. They want to send their kids to decent school. They want to be able to enjoy the holidays. Thanksgiving is coming up. Christmas is coming up. New Year is coming up. They want to be able to save money for their retirement. These are hardworking people, and they are struggling now. They're suffering because of the radical left Democrat government shutdown. My friends, when is this shutdown going to end? When is this shutdown going to end? When will we reopen the government? When will the daily loss of $15 billion stop? As a country, we're falling behind. Every day that the government stays shut down, we're losing. And we're falling behind. It's not just, you got to think about the federal government and look beyond that. There are private sector entities that are being hurt because of the federal government shutdown. It's not just that the workers have been furloughed, the workers are not getting paychecks. It's more than that. The private sector, and the private sector is the heart of the economy. If you have a strong private sector, if you have private businesses, if you have private entities growing and expanding and enjoying success and creating jobs and helping make America greater than ever before, helping make America more prosperous than ever before. If the private sector is hurt because of the federal government shutdown, then we as a country, we're going to lose and we're going to fall behind, and it's going to be bad for us, and it's going to be bad for the future generations. So we need to reopen the government, and it needs to happen now. We are day 24 of the shutdown, day 24. This is extremely harmful for our economy, my friends, for our country. My friends, I always appreciate you all being here. I always appreciate you being here. And I know that our friends, you all, you've been sharing this video, you've subscribed, you've been sharing this video, you've been liking the video. I can see 49 likes already on this video. One more and it'll be 50, which would be nice. Rosie says we voted for Trump. Thank you. Thank you, Rosie. I voted for Trump too. I voted for Trump in 2016. I voted for Trump in 2020. I voted for Trump in 2024. So, all that I'm asking for, when people ask me, Tassif, what can we do for you? Please keep me in your prayers so that I can get the strength to continue with these live streams and to continue spreading my message. And one other thing you can do is subscribe to this channel and like and share the video. The main purpose of me having this channel is to spread the truth. That's all I want to do. And I've said this before, the truth is the foundation of this channel. I want to spread the truth and I want to promote dialogue. And so please share this video. All right, let's see. Someone's saying try engaging with your views then. You mean viewers? Yeah, I do engage. I talk to the viewers. I talk to my friends here. If you subscribe, if you're a part of this community, you are our friend. I talk to my friends here, absolutely. Now, when you have hundreds and sometimes thousands of messages coming in, it's not possible to respond to each and every comment. It's just not possible. Richard says, thanks again for the info, Tassif. Thank you, Richard. I appreciate your support. Let's see. Someone saying, friends agree, talk to people who disagree. No, by friends, I mean all of you. All of you are my friends. If you are here, you're participating in the live chat, you're all my friends. And yeah, I do, yeah, you know, listen, you have to go back and look at my previous live streams. I respond to those who agree with me as well as those who don't. That's why I've got this live chat. I could turn off the live chat. I don't turn off the live chat. The live chat is on and it's open to everyone so that people with various viewpoints can engage in a conversation there. Husky is saying, you just pick the questions you want to answer. No, I just read your comment. See, it seems like you don't agree with me, but I just read your comment. Okay, so the same person is asking why the fault of one party? Well, listen, here's how it works. In the Senate, you got to understand this. This budget approved by the House, in the Senate, you need 60 votes to get this approved. To pass this, you need 60 votes. And how many Republican senators are there? 53. So by design, unless one party has 60 seats and all their senators are on the same page and they all vote to get 60 votes in for a budget, it's going to require the Democrats to cooperate because the Democrats are in the minority. The Republicans have the majority, but the Republicans don't have 60 seats. And by design, there has to be cooperation. And so the Democrats, what they're doing is they are pushing people towards uncertainty. They are pushing people towards anxiety. They are pushing people towards a situation in which, as you can see, the federal workers, they are working without paycheck. So the Democrats, all they have to do is to vote for this budget so that we can get 60 votes in, and then it can be signed by the president. I mean, which party is the party that is creating obstruction, that is creating barriers? Which party is it? It's the Democrat Party. Why would you blame the Republicans? I've heard this argument. Oh, the Republicans control the House, they control the Senate, they control the White House. Oh, so it's the Republicans. No, no, no. You got to understand this budget. It requires 60 votes. And if you don't know that, you have to read American government, the basics of American government, how a bill becomes a law. What is the function of the House? What is the function of the Senate? Very simple. So Democrats must come forward and put politics aside and put their left-wing talking points aside. The Democrats will have to come forward and put their left-wing propaganda aside, left-wing radical agenda aside, and do the right thing and vote for this budget. Okay? Very simple. I'm not giving you a whole course on American government here. I'm trying to keep things very simple. If you want to read more, you go to a library, check out a textbook. I got a whole bunch of books here because I studied economics and political science. I got all my books here, okay? And I got more in the storage. I have so many books that I cannot fit them all on these shelves that I have in my room. Right here. You can't see it because the camera is facing me. And I got more books that are in boxes in a storage off-site. Okay? Lots and lots of books. Someone's asking, are you a college grad? Well, yeah, I have an undergraduate degree and I have a master's degree. Thanks for asking. Paul is here. Paul says, what's up, my brother? Paul, good to see you. Thanks for being here, Paul. Because of the volume of the comments coming in, not possible for me to read each and every name. Okay. So any other questions for me? You can write it in the live chat if you have questions. Rosie says we voted for deportation of illegals. Absolutely, Rosie. And that's what I've been telling. That's what I've been telling people here, that we voted for this. We hold on a second. We voted for this. We voted for President Trump so that his administration can catch and deport the criminal aliens. So yeah, we voted for mass deportation, and if mass deportation is taking place, we support that, right? We voted in favor of mass deportation. And so I thank Kristi Noem every day. I thank Border Czar Tom Homan every day. I thank President Trump every day. I thank Pete Hegseth every day. I thank Marco Rubio every day. I thank Pam Bondi every day. These are great people in the Trump administration. Excellent people. And they are working hard to restore law and order. And they are working hard to ensure that mass deportation does happen. Kay Cooper, good. It's nice to see Kay Cooper's comments. You know, I know Kay Cooper has been watching. It's just that there were so many trolls, I had to turn on the subscriber only mode. It's not something that I like doing, to be honest with you. I'd rather have people just, participate without subscribing if they don't want to. But I had to turn on the subscriber only mode just because otherwise I didn't see the meaningful questions. People were just writing all kinds of irrelevant comments, all right? So I mean, it's not something I want to do, but I had to do it. I mean, the trolls can still come back, but now they have to subscribe, okay? Cherise says, thank you for subscriber only. Thanks to you, Cherise, for always participating in the live chat. Cherise, good to always see you. We got our friend Frank here. We got Cherise. We got Rosie. We got others. We got TD. We got Ryan. Who else do we have? I mentioned Frank. Kay Cooper, our friend. Ryan, Frank says peaceful. Yeah, it is kind of peaceful now. So you can see that the trolls, they were not. So Richard Miller's here. Yeah, they didn't subscribe. They were just causing trouble here. Kay Cooper says, love the true friends in the chat. Thank you, Kay. You know, sometimes I wonder why the far left is writing so many rude and harsh comments. I mean, what have I done that they're so angry that I mean, listen, if they don't like what I have to say, they can just exit, right? I mean, that's always an option. They don't have to watch. I mean, there's so many things to watch on the internet. They can watch the videos of those they agree with. I mean, they can do that. I always welcome people with various viewpoints. I'm always happy that people who don't agree with me are coming to watch my videos, and I'm happy to engage in a dialogue, as I've said so many times. But if they're writing like irrelevant comments, nonsense, um, just presenting a lot of hate, that's that's very unpleasant. Okay. Um, I mean, I talk to people in real life. I talk to people who don't agree with me, but they don't say hateful stuff. They don't say harsh things or nasty. They don't make nasty comments. They may challenge my views. They may say, "Toss, if you're wrong, I don't agree with you, and here's why." Um, and I listen to what they have to say, and I state my points and principles very clearly. At the end of the day, uh, we may not be able to convince each other. I may not be able to convince the other person that I'm right. The other person is not going to be able to convince me. But still, we have a productive conversation, and then we just end it there. Um, Human relationships do not get ruined because of political views. Friendships should not be ruined because of differing political views. Relationships should not be ruined. Anyway, we can have a very nice community here. We can have a very nice community. Democrats, Republicans, Independents, and not all Republicans agree with each other. Not all Democrats agree with each other. So it's not just the two parties, but even within the party, you see differing viewpoints, and we can all exist peacefully. And I don't understand why they come here and flood the live chat with all kinds of nonsense. Just it's really sad. Um, Kat is here. Kat Erin. Kat Erin, good to see you. It's been a while since I've seen your name here, Kat Erin. Maybe you've been watching and I just somehow missed your comments, maybe. Uh, Salerno is here. Thank you, everyone, for being here. Always appreciate you all. Let's see. So yeah, our president is on his way to Asia. He actually, so on the White House, on the YouTube page of the White House, there is an audio file which was published just a short while ago. It says President Trump gaggles with press on Air Force One, October 24, 2025. And it's an audio only file. So it's on YouTube, but it's audio only. It was streaming as I was talking to you all. And so I didn't get to listen to that, but that's exactly what I'm going to do. Once I conclude this live stream, I'm going to listen to that. How long is the audio? It's 14 minutes and 7 seconds long, so it's not too long. And I'm sure that President Trump has a lot of important things to say as he's leaving for Asia, as he's on the plane. And we truly, we wish him well. It's an important trip that he is making, trip to Asia. He's going to be visiting Malaysia, Japan, South Korea. He's going to be meeting with leaders from other countries, including Mark Carney, including Xi Jinping of China. And we, as proud Americans, we should hope for the very best so that whatever President Trump has in mind, whatever he wants to accomplish, that he's able to do that for the country. He is doing that for the country. So I wish him well. And I'm going to be paying real close attention to the news coming out of Asia. All right. And there's a significant time difference, which is interesting. I mean, I'm originally from Asia, so I understand the time difference really well. So when it's daytime here, it's nighttime in Asia. When it's nighttime here, it's daytime in Asia. So most of the news that that are going to be published or streamed online, or whatever updates are going to be shared on social media by different reporters and journalists and news stations, it's all going to be happening while it's nighttime in the US, because then it's daytime in the part of Asia that President Trump is going to be visiting. So I think unless you're up at night, you're going to have to wake up in the morning, and first thing in the morning, you'll be reading about what happened at this meeting or at that meeting. So that time difference is going to present some challenges. It's not like you're going to turn on the TV during the day and see live events happening. Or I mean, it could be because I'm sure they'll have maybe morning, afternoon, evening sessions. I don't know what the schedule is, but yeah. But I'm kind of used to staying up late, so I will eagerly be looking forward to watching all the updates coming out of Asia. But it's a long flight just to get there, and I hope that President Trump um, will have a lot of success during this trip. Okay. So anyone else? Can I do one thing? Let's do one thing. Let me open up the. Tell me if I should do this. Shall I open up the live chat? Switch it back to. Switch it back to. Anyone, not just subscribers. Shall I do that? Let me know. It's going to be interesting. I don't know if there's going to be a flood of comments coming in if I switch it back. Sharice says sure. Okay, let me do this. Let's see if the trolls come back. I turned off the subscriber only mode. Let's see what happens. That's exactly what Kay just said. Kay wrote it and I said it at the same time. Let's see what happens. All right. Still not seeing much. All right. I guess they're gone. Maybe they're gone. Maybe they're gone, huh? Could be. Yeah, trolls don't stick around for too long, huh? All right. Yeah, it's kind of quiet. It's kind of quiet, huh? Yeah. Wow, 1 hour, 23 minutes. Okay. Yeah, I think I'll wrap up in the next few minutes. It's been a busy week, and I'll probably go get some rest. I mean, it's nighttime, so I may go watch I may go watch some TV. Oh, as I said, I'll listen to this 14-minute long audio of President Trump talking to the media on Air Force One. And after I'm done with that, I'll probably turn on the TV, watch TV a little bit, and then sleep. All right. There's someone here named Queen. Welcome. Thank you for being here. Let's see. Queen asks, "Hey Tosif, how are you?" I'm doing well, thank you. Thank you, appreciate it. Thanks for asking. I'm doing well. Queen is asking, "Can you do an analysis of the midterm elections map?" Yeah, I will do that. I'll do that during a different live stream. Um, so yeah, I'll do that later, not during this live stream. Um, yeah. Somebody just mentioned Marjorie Taylor Greene. I see that. Nathaniel is talking about Marjorie Taylor Greene. You know, I'm going to talk about Georgia, okay, to kind of answer both of you, because Queen mentioned about um, election map analysis for the midterm. Nathaniel mentioned Marjorie Taylor Greene. Marjorie Taylor Greene is from Georgia. So let me talk about Georgia a little bit. Georgia is the state, Nathaniel and Queen, talking to you both and others. Georgia is the state that we are going to be closely looking at for the Senate race. Jon Ossoff is going to be on the ballot, Democrat, and that is a state that the Republicans must win. We must defeat Jon Ossoff, the Democrat in Georgia, to win that Senate seat, to try to increase our Senate seat total in the midterm. Okay? So Queen, I'm not able to do a thorough analysis of all the Senate races and gubernatorial races and everything else that's going to be on the ballot in the midterm, but just mention Georgia because Nathaniel mentioned Marjorie Taylor Greene, so that brought Georgia to my attention. Okay. Nathaniel asks, "What are your thoughts on the main Senate election for Georgia?" Yeah, that's what I'm saying. The Senate, U.S. Senate race in Georgia. I hope we win. There's no reason why we can't win in Georgia. The Senate race. I mean, Jon Ossoff should be easy to defeat, but it's all about the voter turnout. Okay. I mean, Georgia is a red state. Georgia is a Republican state. I mean, look, Georgia has a Republican governor. Georgia had 2 Republican senators, and that was a very sad story how that changed. How Georgia went from having 2 Republican senators to now 2 Democrat U.S. senators. Very sad. We're not going to go into that discussion. But I hope that Jon Ossoff can be defeated. That's a seat that we can pick up. And President Trump won Georgia. You know, he had a massive victory in Georgia in 2024. So if President Trump goes out to Georgia to campaign, if President Trump is, using his, his influence to kind of energize the voters in Georgia, I think we should be able to win. That is what I think. Okay. Right. Nathaniel is asking about the Maine election. No, I gotta look at that. I haven't paid much attention to that so far, but that's something hopefully I'll talk about in the near future. So thanks for. Oh, let me write it down so I remember. Okay, I'm gonna write it down. Hold on a second. So I'm writing it down. The Maine Senate race. Okay. I'm just making a note so I can address that in a future live stream. All right. Thanks for the question. All right. My friends, I think we will be wrapping up here shortly. Give me 1 second. Yeah, let me wrap it up now. So thank you all for being here, my friends. Thanks for spending your Friday evening with me. I appreciate you all. And I'm going to be back again. I'm trying to do live streams more frequently. So I'll continue that as long as I'm able to do it. If I'm not busy doing other things, um, I'll continue doing live streams. Okay, some might be during the day, some afternoon, some in the evening. So thank you all. May God bless you all. May God bless President Donald J. Trump. May God bless the Trump administration. May God bless the Republicans in Washington. May God bless the United States of America. May God bless our U.S. allies. And may God bless freedom-loving people all over the world. Thank you, my friends. Please pay attention to President Trump's Asia visit. Check the updates. We will discuss them right here on this channel, but you should also on your own try to keep track of what's going on. It's going to be interesting to see what interaction takes place between Mark Carney and President Trump, Prime Minister Mark Carney of Canada and President Trump of the USA, and also what interactions take place between President Donald J. Trump and Xi Jinping of China. So we'll talk about all that. Thank you, my friends. May God bless you all. And remember, together, we will make America great again. Have a good night, my friends, and I'll be back again very soon with more videos and more live stream. Thank you.